Galileo was the only time when the Roman Catholic Church, and keep in mind I'm not Roman Catholic, impeded or went against what we now recognize as science. Even though that Galileo discussed his ideas with the previous pope and with the guy who would become the pope when Galileo got in trouble, the reason he got into trouble, the main reason, is because of the Protestant Reformation and the view that the Roman Catholic Church was too into things like science and the natural world and studying the natural world instead of, studying Scripture. With exception to that, there is no other case in the Church's 2,000-year history that shows anything but pro-science. Catholic Church accepted evolution right out the gate. Studied it and said it probably was correct right out the gate, and then announced it to be the most correct, what's it called? Theory for how life got here in the way it did. The Big Bang, the Catholic Church created that, actually. It was Lemaitre that came up with that idea, a Catholic priest. The Catholic Church looks at space and interstellar phenomenon more than any other group. More than SETI, more than NASA. Creationism was not only never believed by any ancient church, including the Roman Catholic Church, but it was vehemently fought against by Roman Catholicism. If you don't know anything about history, which most atheists who claim that Catholics are creationists are among those people who don't know anything, don't realize that the Platonic method was the prevailing description of the universe at the time. Not the first or second story in Genesis. See, there's two creation accounts in Genesis. This, the ancient church always knew. It's right there. Literally right there in black and white. One creation account, next creation account. Yet, there's people like Dark Matter 2525 who claim that the Bible is to be taken literally, when the earliest commentaries, the oldest writings by rabbis and church fathers, continually discuss the fact that none of this is to be taken literally, and they give examples of how can there be, a day when the moon and the sun haven't been created yet, or where did Cain's wife come from? They say that these are basically, to rephrase it, exclamation marks, punctuation points, to show that it's not factual, that it's a metaphor. See, the ancient Christians loved metaphors, and a lot of ancient Christians believed most of the Bible was a metaphor, since Christ chose to reveal the quote-unquote truth in metaphor. So things like, where did Cain's wife come from? That just was a signal to many ancient Christians that, this is just telling us, like the sheep and the goats, or the parable of the sower, or the Pharisee and the publican, just giving us a roundabout idea of how we got in this situation of life with suffering, not giving any answer or anything, but just kind of the roundabout way. Yeah. There's two flood stories of Noah. Question, did Isaac get sacrificed or not? One story he sacrificed, the next one Uh, he's not. I mean, it's ludicrous. These internet atheists that try to say, "Oh, see, the Bible contradicts itself," or at least the Book of Genesis, a Jewish book that the Christians did not rely on for science. They relied on the Greeks for that, when they actually would rely on science. But we have plenty of commentaries from the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th century that tell us not to take the Old Testament literally. Basil the Great, Clement of Alexandria. I mean, just naming those two, I could go on and name more, but just those two, the greatest, biggest heavy hitters, along with John Chrysostom, tell us, yeah, don't take any of this literally. And the parts you do take literally, it's just, about like the width of a field, and, because we know that Mount Tabor really exists. So when it mentions Mount Tabor, it means Mount Tabor. But as for the creation account, multiple times during the 3rd century and 2nd century, the early Christians wrote about it, laughing and comparing it to people taking things as parable, or people taking parables as serious stories. And they would use the creation narrative in Genesis to say, imagine if somebody were to take this literally. See how stupid that would be? I mean, Clement of Alexandria says that a couple times and mocks this fictional idea of creationism, because nobody had believed in creationism yet. And he couldn't fathom anybody ever believing in that the first creation account in Genesis was actually supposed to be believed as actual events. So, I mean, yeah, ridiculous.